We're faced with a very serious situation in this generation. There are insane people who wish to rule the world.
Last rush in Babylon. Voices catching up. Voices catching up. Watch out, child. Watch out, child. Babylon falling down. Falling down. Society a broken promise. Economies war, citizen whores. Political pimps leaving us flat on our backs. Trading today, waiting for the promised land.
First up, I'm glad to see you here, and I'm glad that I'm here. And if I say anything that you don't agree with, let's just leave it at we don't agree about it. All right?
There's no clear thought being exercised right now in the American public. They're allowing the insanity of the leaders, you know, to make decisions, all right, that really are not in the best interest of the public. They're not in the best interest of the children of the public. They're not in the best interest of the grandchildren of the public. They're not in the best interest of the earth. They're not in the best interest of anyone.
I felt as though someone knocked me unconscious when I entered the world. It's been a lifetime trying to come to. I used to get this idea that I was in the wrong time and the wrong place. I thought that I came here 100 years too late. The 100 years too late was because I used to see this camp on the plains, amongst the trees, by a river. It was a tribal camp, and I felt I was a part of it. It's like these thoughts were memories. Every part was familiar, and I was a part of the whole thing. There was another place, another dream. I can still physically see this camp. It was in the mountains somewhere. And my job was to keep peace with the wolves, keep peace for my people, to make this alliance.
Crazy horse, we hear what you say. One earth, one mother. One does not sell the earth the people walk upon. We are the land. How do we sell our mother? How do we sell the stars? How do we sell the air? Crazy horse, we hear what you say.
The spirit of life is almost non-existent in the perceptual reality of the society that we're in. It's almost non-existent. They got religion, they got civilization, you know, they got military, they got politics, they got all education, they got all the stuff, but they don't have the spirit to live.
I want you to listen to this man speak. His name is John Trudell.
I'm a member of the American Indian movement, and I'm from the indigenous nations of the Western Hemisphere. As the indigenous people, we have watched this thing happen on our hemisphere. We have seen what has happened. We have seen them come in and confuse and attack. We understand that the issue is the land, the issue is the earth. We cannot change the political system. We cannot change the economic system. We cannot change the social system until the people control the land, and then we take it out of the hands of that sick minority that chooses to pervert the meaning and the intention of humanity.
There was trouble in Custer, South Dakota yesterday after 200 Indians...
President Johnson transmits the bill to Congress. As Attorney General...
The great lie is that it is civilization. It's not civilized. It has been literally the most bloodthirsty, brutalizing system ever imposed upon this planet. That is not civilization. That's the great lie. is that it represents civilization. That's the great lie. Or if it does represent civilization, and that's truly what civilization is, then the great lie is that civilization is good for us.
From the time I met John, I thought that he had one of the most engaging minds of anybody I had met. He was very charismatic, very focused. With John, there was no middle ground.
We have lying dormant in us, we have a genetic memory. And in that genetic memory, there's knowledge. There's knowledge in that genetic memory, all right, that goes back to the ancient, to the beginning for us, all right? And in this genetic memory, there was a time when we were all tribes. Every human being lived within a tribe. Every human being recognized this reality that the earth was the mother and the sun and the sky was the father. Father, sky, mother, earth. Recognized that in our totality as human beings, all right, our relationship was to that.
I was born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1946. My mom and dad and me lived out in the Brazil Creek district of the Santee Reservation, where my father was from. My grandpa on my mom's side was from Mexico, and he rode with Pancho Villa during the Mexican Revolution. He took my grandma from one of the tribes in Chihuahua, just kidnapped her and took her. After the revolution, they came up to Kansas because he was a wanted man. Kansas was where my mom was born and grew up, and my mom grew up as a Mexican. Growing up, we were poor, but I don't remember wanting for anything or feeling deprived of anything. It was a good world. And then when I was 6 years old, my mom died. I remember seeing my dad crying. He took me to see my mom in this hospital. I remember she gave me grapes, green grapes. She hugged me and kissed me, and then it was time to go. I didn't see her anymore. I didn't understand what had happened, but in some kind of a way, I knew I didn't have a mom anymore. And then God came into the equation, and I didn't like God. I never trusted him.
To God, I hope you don't mind, but I would like to talk
to you.
There are some things we need to straighten out. It's about these Christians. They claim to be from your nation, but man, you should see the things they do all the time, blaming it on you, raping the earth, lying, taking more than they need in all the forms of the breeds. They say it's God's will. I don't mean to be disrespectful.
We do not mean to be disrespectful.
But you know how it is. My people have their own ways.
We never even heard of you until not long ago. Your representative spoke magnificent things of you, which we were willing to believe. But from the way they acted, we know you and we were being deceived. It is time for you to decide what life is worth. We
already remember, but maybe you forgot.
When I was in high school, they drugged me into the principal's office and they told me I had a lot of potential, but that I needed to learn how to study hard and make something of myself. And that's when I quit school, because I realized that we weren't operating on the same level of reality, because you see, I knew that I already was something. I walked out of that principal's office and the schoolhouse door that day. The next door I walked into was the Navy recruiting office.
I wasn't a serviceman. Oh, yeah? No. Decorated.
Yeah, me too, Jimmy. You're not alone.
And you should know, an upside-down flag's a distress signal. That's no militant bull. Not a militant. I'm a warrior.
The only reason I volunteered for the military was I needed to get away from where I was at. It wasn't about politics, patriotism, or anything else. It was about survival. I was stationed on a destroyer. I did 2 Westpac tours to Vietnam. And it turns out I made the right choice because the Vietnamese didn't have a Navy. I was home-ported out of Long Beach, and it was during this time that I met my first wife.
Let's see, we got married in '68. We were living in San Bernardino at the time. And I was working, and he was going to school at San Bernardino Valley College. And Alcatraz happened in November. And I remember he said, we're going to Alcatraz. And I said, oh, I don't think so. I have cold feet. He said, put socks on.
For more than 6 months, a band of American Indians has been living without government approval on Alcatraz Island, the rock that used to be a federal penitentiary. And all attempts to get them off have so far failed.
Welcome back. This is Radio Free Alcatraz from Indian Land, Alcatraz Island in California. This is John Trudell speaking for the Indians of all tribes, and for this portion of the show we had the government has been practicing a policy of taking what they need from the Indian people. Well, not necessarily what they need, taking what they want from us just about any time that they would like to do so, and they've been doing this through the years, are doing it today. And I would say that a large majority of the people out in the average American people aren't even aware that this is going on. And maybe that's why the government is allowed to get away with this.
The garbage is piling up. The lighthouse is broken. But they say it's no worse than living on a typical Indian reservation.
This is a country where all men are created equal, and it's the land of the free and the home of truth and justice and liberty for all. Well, we want to know why that doesn't apply to us. So, if this is the land of the free, then we want to know why we don't have the respect and dignity that all free men are accorded by other free men.
The government had declared Alcatraz surplus property. Young Indian nationalists, claiming an old treaty right to unneeded federal property, descended on the island 1 year ago today and took it over.
If there's ever going to be a generation of revolutionaries raised, people wanting change, these kids are getting good experience as to what Indian relationship is with the government. Because this has been, like all along the lines here, this has been a very peaceful protest.
We occupied the island in the name of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. See, and the reality that that treaties are laws. So it was really about law. It was really about a legal issue, not a moral or an ethical issue with the government's responsibilities.
What Alcatraz meant was it meant for the first time we saw young Native people standing up and saying, we have rights. We have rights to the land. We have rights to our own government. And we want to be listened to, and we will be heard.
Now what we have here is the model of our island and how we're going to have it. We will become an international outlet worldwide for authentic Indian art. And this will establish our base income to run the island and our university.
Part of what we're saying on Alcatraz is that besides wanting the deed to the island for our cultural center, that we want to be treated as human beings. We want to be looked upon with respect as equals.
Well, I can understand they might feel that way, but I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind that if the federal government felt as though they should come off, that they would come off and pretty fast.
Approximately a month before we were removed, the government called us together for a negotiation and said that they had a new proposal. They would lease us half of the island, and we could have jobs caretaking it. And they would give us $250,000. And we told them no, because it wasn't about that. We wanted them to legally recognize their responsibilities to the Native community, which we were representing. So for us, it was all or nothing. This is what it is that we need to have, and we will settle for nothing else. So they came in on June the 11th, a SOG team, Special Operations Group, a U.S. Marshals, and they took the people that were on the island off the island.
We were negotiating with the government concerning settling the Alcatraz issue, and they guaranteed us that no action would be taken against Alcatraz Indians as long as these negotiations were taking place. And then they turned around and they came out there and they took our people off the island. They called our attorney at 4:30 yesterday afternoon and told him that they would have word concerning the deed to the island. They would have it for us Monday morning. And that's what we were waiting for, and they came in, while they were doing one thing with their left hand, they came in with their right hand. They lied to us.
John Trudell and Richard Oakes, of all the leaders that came and went during the occupation of Alcatraz, were able to articulate our feelings and give a name to what we felt, and the name was independence and sovereignty and freedom and a right to our land.
How does it feel to be here today?
Just reminds me of other worlds. A lot of things have happened since I first came. First boat ride I ever made to this place, many things have happened. And it's like, so I was kind of maybe just remembering some of those things.
I mean, I've been to many Alcatrazes since 1969.
Prototype people, rigid suit trolls near brain dead, under for spacious skies gathering storm clouds, rule of law, a falling axe in stormtroopers' hands, cruel class deceivers claim God for their side, making up stories with places for meanings to hide. Dracula drinks deeply while nourishing his trap, the love of mankind an alluring narcotic rap.
Baby.
Sex does love, sex is life.
All through the course of the years of all of us, all I did was talk. You know? And they cracked down hard just for that.
Sunrise, new dawn embracing, long time history, long time future, looking beyond industrial limits. Sunrise, ancient prayers answering, spirits hunted by technologic slavers, good medicine seeing through the machine. Sunrise, natural rhythm continuing. Lessons in natural law. Oppressors trapped in themselves. Sunrise, an eternal prophecy. Conducting daily ritual. Remembering the ceremony, life.
I published a book of poems. It's called Living in Reality, Songs Called Poems. And that was in the fall of 1982. And then I had an opportunity to record make a tape, a cassette tape, where I put the poetry with the traditional tribal songs.
Endure, the people cry out, tears of anger, tears of sorrow. Living in reality, calling us Red Indians, we have been the colors on a chameleon's back, changing with time, altering the larger pattern, surviving genocide because we have to.
I was so taken by the fact that the U.S. government would try to dismantle and decimate a culture by first stripping them of their spirit.
We wonder what type of a condition exists when the people have been afraid to speak their minds. We wonder what kind of a condition exists when the people's spirit is at such a low place. At such a low place that they knowingly and they willingly go around and accept that they are governed by liars and exploiters. The American people laugh about how you can't trust a politician. The people must take the political system under their control.
During that period of time, the native consciousness was waking up. That native spirit was starting to fire up. Alcatraz happened, and during that same time, AIM in particular was evolving out of Minnesota.
John made a transition from Alcatraz to being involved very directly and very visibly in the American Indian movement.
AIM was really again, it was about community,
right? It was about the way of the tribe. You know, I mean, and you know, again, it was about a legal issue, because from the political end, Ames' statement was same as Indians of all tribes, Alcatraz. You have a legal responsibility. Treaties are laws. By the Constitution, they're laws.
But when I look at America now, going back to the treaty, this American generation, they don't look at the treaty as having any validity. All right, well, I'm going to say that was an agreement made between their ancestors and my ancestors. And when they break that treaty like that, they're telling me they have no spiritual connection to their past, no respect for their past. And if we want to get down to the realities of checking legislation that's been passed in the U.S. Congress and doing our homework on agencies such as the Federal Bureau of Investigation and these energy mobilization boards, we'll find out that they now have all the rights and the individuals are losing the rights. And it's almost sometimes I feel like a war is being waged against us.
They lied to you, they confused you, they told you that you had freedom and democracy, but you go back, you read your Constitution, you read your Declaration of Independence, and you will see that the only people who could decide these freedoms were white males who owned property, and all the rest of us were excluded.
And I think they saw him as a tremendous threat, simply because he was able to mobilize people, motivate people, inspire people, and get them to follow him.
For 500 years we have had to fight and resist and struggle against the oppressor who has come. They called us Indians and said that we didn't have any rights. They called us Indians and said that we were no longer people. They called us Indians and they used their manifest destiny mentality to justify their genocide against us.
In the 1960s, the FBI launched what it called the COINTELPRO program, the counterintelligence program. And essentially it was a program within the FBI to infiltrate the civil rights movement and to destroy it from within and from without. In the late 60s, very early 70s, when activists within the Indian community started vocalizing their situation with regard to deprivations of human and civil rights, the FBI shifted or used the same basic tactics to go after Ames.
Several groups of American Indians have banded together to march on the nation's capital for a redress of some long-standing grievances. But the president refused to see them. Congress is out of session, so today they took their caravan to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. ABC's Bill Matney reports.
They came from as far away as the Pacific Northwest and as nearby as North Carolina, American Indians from 250 tribes. They came to the capital as a trail of broken treaties caravan, they said, to reclaim their lands and their rivers and, most of all, their dignity. They descended on the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the agency they want abolished. There were more than 500 Indians in the caravan today, with thousands more expected tomorrow. They were angry and they wanted answers.
We occupied the national headquarters of the BIA. It was a big embarrassment to and we're talking about Nixon and Ehrlichman and Haldeman and John Mitchell, and if people remember history, well, just think of Ashcroft and Bush and Wolfowitz, and you're talking about these same mentalities. But we occupied that building and had it for a week. And the government was in a bind. See, and we pushed it pretty far. But we were pushing it, again, about the way the BIA was treating the people in the communities. We had a 20-point position paper that we were presenting to the government about ways that they can enact the treaty laws.
And I remember traveling back from D.C. when the occupation ended at the Bureau of Indian Affairs, traveling back out towards West Country, and I'd stayed on with caravans that traveled through South Dakota. And I remember when we got to Pine Ridge, Dickie Wilson, the chairman, took a stance that he was going to keep the American Indian movement off the reservation however he could.
In February 1973, AIM and the traditional people of Pine Ridge occupied the village of Wounded Knee, taking a stand for the legal rights of the Lakota people under the Fort Laramie Treaty Law of 1868.
The standoff continues at Wounded Knee, South Dakota. 200 Indians still occupy that small community, and federal marshals still surround them. There were no incidents and no shooting today, fortunately. But there has been a lot of talking in a teepee, talking between the Indians and government lawyers to try to find a way to end the impasse peacefully.
AIM picked Wounded Knee, but the government picked South Dakota. All right? Because it shut down the momentum of AIM.
The FBI noted that one of the things that AIM was shifting its direction towards was protecting the earth. At the same time, some 27 multinational corporations were coming into this region, uranium and oil and other mineral companies, and basically leasing and staking claims throughout the entire Black Hills region. During the same time period, the FBI declared AIM to be one of the most dangerous organizations in the country, and they began discussing the need for paramilitary assaults on what they consider to be certain AIM strongholds.
Pine Ridge, the capital of the reservation, is about 10 miles from Wounded Knee, but it's as tense as the small community which has been held by the militant Indians for 6 days now. The takeover of Wounded
See, one of the things that the American government realized, and they saw this at Alcatraz, and they saw that it was really more pervasive, because they saw it in AIM, and that is that the majority of the American citizens agreed with us. Right? They felt some kind of sympathy or understanding. The majority agreed with us, right? That the government was in the wrong in its dealings and treatment of Native peoples. So and to the government, the way the government operates, anytime any grassroots or anytime any group of people start to get popular support, this becomes a threat to the government. AIM got labeled by this Eastland Subcommittee on Un-American Affairs as a terrorist organization. And between 73 and 75, the government with the FBI, they were literally waging a Contra war against now all of the AIM people and traditionalists, the ones who had supported Wounded Knee. They were trying to eliminate this thought.
You could look at the film footage of the news media of FBI paramilitary units engaging in sweeps or patrols, and it looked just like Vietnam. I mean, there was absolutely no difference. There were helicopters, there were armored personnel carriers, there were tanks, there were a lot of military equipment, and FBI agents who looked like they were in combat.
In June 1975, 2 FBI agents were killed on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota.
The community that they launched their attack in was a community of Oglala. In the course of the firefight that took place that day, one of our people, Joseph Stuntz, was killed, and 2 members of the Federal Bureau of Investigation were killed. And as a result of that, 3 men stood trial for it, Dino Butler and Bob Robidoux and Pelletier. Then that's when they kind of just put the finishing touches on the momentum that AIM had.
We had that Oglala firefight, and afterwards we got arrested. He was the only one that came forward. Him and Neelock and Tina came to our defense and helped organize in the communities.
And when we got to town and checked into this hotel, and I turned on the news, and all the news in the local stations was really talking about, there were going to be terrorist attacks, that the AIM militants were coming, they were going to be disruptive, they needed to have a lot more security, and so they had created this paranoid climate. See, and all the media was carrying it. It's almost like, like the government was writing it. So we were not liked in that town. So we had a press conference, and right away, and challenged them on it. Here are women and kids, and they met with every church group. They met with every women's organization, every community organization. Met and just explained, look, we're just here. We don't want to be. You don't want us here. We don't want to be here. We just want the opportunity. And basically,
through that kind of networking, and then the reality that hold it. These aren't Indians, they're human beings. See, that reality was emerging in Cedar Rapids. And this juror got to see it, you know, because we had a positive influence in that community. And in the end, when push came to shove, on the jury deciding on guilt or innocence, this played a role. So for that whole period of time, from the National Indian Youth Council to AIM and all Indians of all tribes and fishes, that whole period of time, that activist period of time, that movement period of time, I think that the lasting effect of it was that it made the spirit of the people stronger.
Early on, it was really a struggle of the women having a voice, you know, within the American Indian movement. And, you know, when I look back now and look at John's relationship with Annie Mae, John's relationship with Nelock Butler and you know, Kamook and others, you know, it's like John was the voice of reason. You know, John was there for you know, all of our sisters.
See the woman. She has a young face, an old face. She carries herself well in all ages. She survives all man has done.
Me and Tina were a good team. I mean, I met her around the end of '71. By '72, we had teamed up, and I worked a lot of Oklahoma with her.
She was always very sensitive and very concerned about people. And during the time she was at Tulsa University, she met John Trudell. He was there doing this. He was a speaking tour or something. She was just taken by what John was doing and fell in love with him.
She was really an intelligent person. She got it. She's one of those people that get it, right? And I think in many ways we complemented each other very well, right? And just by her being who she is, she gave me credibility in the worlds that I wouldn't normally have it in, right? Because I was one of them wild guys, right? Her major in college was psychology. You know, it's almost like she knew she was going to meet me. And so she already had her self-defense. And Tina had she told me that she would stay with me on the road for no more than 2 years. Then she wanted to go home because home is where, for her, this is where it needed to be done.
Tina had a way with our old ones. She knew how special they were, and she'd make it a point to go and visit them and to hear what they had to share. She was one of those people who took time to go and visit others. And with her humble way and gentleness, they were just always so happy to see her.
way heat breathes. Dancing Sweet. Our introduction was our seduction.
Dancing sweet.
When touch touches. Magic from beyond. That electric feeling. The messenger.
It's really hard to talk about Tina. It's really hard to, it's still a wound that's not healed.
John at that time was in doing his thing on the national level. They had the shootout at Oglala. It was still a hot time. It was still a hot time, and things were secretive, and people looking over their shoulders. Where John lived, where Tina lived, was always being cased. There's people saying that there were suits driving by all the time and checking it out, and they were always being watched.
What we were doing in Duck Valley on her reservation, it seriously was a major thing for the system at that time, because we were really the tribe. Tribe was taking jurisdiction without asking for permission. The tribe was acting like a tribal government, sovereign, and there had been conflicts with the federal government because of this. Tina was a target because the threat that Tina posed to them, all right, is that she was from there, she was born there, she grew up there, they knew her, they trusted her, she was well educated, and she understood their system. For anyone to think that what happened to her, as specifically something just related to me, it minimizes who she is. I burned the American flag in protest of the way that the American government treats the indigenous Indian people in the United States of America. I burned the American flag as an act of protest against the injustice that is being extended against all of the people. We burned the American flag because it has been desecrated, and it's the only proper way to dispose of the American flag after desecration is to burn it. We feel that racism and sexism and class separation, that these are desecrations. And we feel that the American flag does not represent integrity, honor, justice, or truth. He was warned in jail that his family could be in danger, the way he's carrying on.
About 2 o'clock in the morning, my dad came over he was pounding on the back door, and we opened the door, and he was just standing there, and what struck me was his eyes were just sort of gray, it seemed, and he had his pajamas on, and he just said, "There's a fire. The house is burning, and they're all in it." There was a line of fire across the roof. Some people that saw it from a distance, it says maybe that, somebody had torched it that way.
In the fire, the family was trapped in the house, and Tina and her children were killed in the fire, and so was her mother.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs went out there and didn't conduct a very thorough investigation. I don't want to say that the FBI kills innocent kids and children. I just don't want to say that, I don't think, but you never know, you never know.
Tina was pregnant at the time she died, and they had chosen the name Josiah Hawk for the baby, and they put the name of the baby's name right on the headstone. And then the other three, Ricardo, Star, Sunshine, Karma, and Eli, Changing Sun.
I died then. I had to die in order to get through it. And if I can get through it, then maybe I would learn how to live again. Putting my love into the ground like this, putting my love in boxes, putting them into the ground and covering them up, reconnected me to the earth.
I was listening to the voices of life, chanting in unison. Carry on the struggle. The generations surge together in resistance to meet the reality of power. Mother Earth embraces her children in natural beauty to last beyond oppressor's brutality. As the butterfly floats into life, we are the spirit of natural life, which is forever. The power of understanding, real connections to spirit, is meaning our resistance, our struggle, is not sacrifice lost. It is natural energy, properly used. Remember the people. Remember sky and earth. Remember the people have always struggled to live in harmony, in peace. Struggle against selfishness and weakness so the people may live as nations. The old ways are hard. The people have always had to work together. Remember, impatient one, remember and live. Do not be afraid of truth. Respect, discipline, share your life so the people may live. Honor sky and earth. Honor yourself. Honor your relations. Remember, impatient one, the gentleness of time. Grandmother Moon, we love you. We pray for you, for us, and for the invader who just can't comprehend respect, love, or the balance of life. We do not join the invading madness. From the way they act, it speaks of spirit sadness. Machine money progress is the cause of our common abuse. We see you, grandmother. We feel you. We love you. We know through your reality we will endure. We are one. We pray for you. We pray to you. Grandfathers whispering in the wind, rejoice at the life you are a part of. Natural energy bound to natural laws. You will survive this temporary madness imposed upon you. Natural life is longer than oppressors' illusionary insanity. Spirits experience human deeds but need not end. This is just one place of changes. Spirit life is forever if you want. The universe is your home. You can survive here. Do not let them kill you. Keep your spirit strong. For distant stars and distant drums are the memories of spirit infancy. Children of earth, let the spirit live so you can grow in your place in the universe. The ones who knew me, I would like to thank you for putting up with what I never could. It seems the extremes were more than I could bear. Your patience taught me so much. Too many times I learned too slow. At times the understandings were beaten down by insecurity. Your acceptance really was something. The times I hurt myself, bringing it all down on you, you reached out with love and tolerance. You were always there when I needed. You steadied me gently, carrying me into each new day, changing names, changing faces, supporting me, keeping me going.